This is the Realty Classroom Podcast, episode number 84, The White Elephant in the Room. Are you a real estate agent with an entrepreneurial spirit who wants to turn your job into a business without sacrificing your lifestyle, but you just can't seem to find the right plan to help you get there? Well then, hey, you're definitely in the right place and there's hope for you. I'm Danny Griffin, the founder of the Realty Classroom and the host of this podcast. And to help you take immediate action to get started in the right direction if you're new, or build a better real estate agent business if you're a veteran agent, I've created a free jumpstart course for you over at freeagentgift.com. Get over there, get your digital copy, get started the right way, get your ship headed in the right direction. All right, in this episode, last time, if you listened last time, go back and listen. Eat that frog. This week, it's elephants. It's all about animals. All about animals, and it's like a stampede. I'm recording this episode in advance of TRC Live, an event that I do for my mastermind group, which I have plans on expanding and inviting the general public. But for this year, this is probably the last time I'll limit it just to my mastermind group. So I'm super focused because a lot of these folks I've worked with for over 10 years. And over 10 years trying to overcome all the changes in this business that it's seen with the onslaught of all these digital distractions, only to find out that if you keep it simple and you keep chunking up the basic ideas, you can better serve the consumer. And that's really important. But there's this big white elephant in the room that's always lurking. Now, those that have been coached for me by a while know that I have a special bent towards all things the head stuff or your mindset, because I know for certain that when you are running a small business, it is all about the way that you think, because you are the prime mover. The smaller the business, the more it relies on that one person. Well, of course, it relies on that one person's mindset. So it becomes a critical component. And I think if you don't work on your business mindset and your mindset in general, that's a huge contributing factor to why most businesses fail. And the first thing that you can do to work on your mindset is to work on the business from all angles, all perspectives. So that's the belief system here. So in doing that and walking the walk myself all the time for both my coaching business and my brokerage business, so I can be as finely tuned in both all the time, I often listen to podcasts myself. And so the first one that I'll reference is right now at the moment of the recording of this, Joe Rogan's podcast is a big deal. Now, the irony is I'm an MMA fan, a mixed martial arts fan, and I got to see Joe in that context, but then all of a sudden he grew himself, and he has a tremendously successful podcast, and he's a deep thinker, and he'll get in with people that really are deep thinkers themselves that have chunked up these simple ideas. That's what I like about Joe. He has the similar approach that I do to trying to find the simplicity of things, the logic of things, not letting people go down rabbit holes, but trying to chunk it up. And so he referenced, this is the first point here, a book. And that book was called The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. But it's just a Joe Rogan motivational clip, I think, that I caught when I was working out. I often listen to YouTube videos, and I'll get into that in this episode as well. That's where I do a lot of my learning while I'm working out. So I get the double whammy of the intensity of the workout and the learning moment where I'm very, very focused on the motivational message, the mindset message. So they really work hand in hand. But The War of Art, the reason I picked up the audio version, oftentimes I'll make a decision. Is this more of a technical and tactical book? I'll probably get the hard copy, unless, of course, I'm just reading for fun, then I'll definitely get the hard copy. But if I'm studying something, there might be a message I want to listen to. So I have a lot of long car rides in this business and back and forth between my two markets. And I like to listen to a message. So I'm thrilled that I got the audiobook by Stephen Pressfield, The War of Art, and listened to it because I had no idea that this guy would be such a funny writer, that this would be such a funny, practical, playful approach to this idea that there is this thing called the resistance. You personify this thing called the resistance. And it's this attack on creativity. See, as entrepreneurs or small business people, we are reliant on our imagination. I mean, just go look at some of the greats like Napoleon Hill who talk about the power of imagination for all the successful people. You have to see it and believe it before you can do it, right? Napoleon Hill's little pithy statement, his secret that he discovered that was later ripped off by everybody else and called the law of attraction was what the mind of man can conceive and believe it can achieve. So it starts with this conception of idea, creativity, but there is an assault on creativity. There's an assault. There's a dumbing down. Anybody who dares to think differently, especially kids, and I have 5 of those, I'm expert in this field. I have been aware of all of the forces that rail against their creative brain. I mean, oftentimes people would say, oh, you have kids doing creative things. No, every kid has a creative imagination until we stomp on that fire, till we throw a bucket of water in it and say, oh, no, don't do that. Just be very practical. Just get yourself in line, get yourself a little cubicle somewhere, make sure you have a 401k and live happily ever after. No way. No way. I would never, ever, ever have my kids be taught that that was the way. Now, if they chose that, there are some people that are fabulously great at their business and they go to a cubicle and they smash the work that gets done in that cubicle. So it's not the concept of that. It's more so, are they doing what they're wired to do, what they love to do? Do they find love in their work? I remember meeting a CFO of a private equity firm, and I said, you like what you do? He says, I love it. I love to go to work every day. So there's an example of somebody who absolutely loves that lane. So if that's where his creativity gets freed and he's able to do what he does with his imagination, crunching numbers in boxes under a fluorescent light in a cubicle, fabulous. Then I say he's free. And that's wonderful. But for the most part, it's the opposite case, that so many of us are, just being cattled, right? We're being thrown into these chutes and our creativity is being sapped. And that kills real estate agents who are entrepreneurial and really get this. It kills them because they don't look to say, hey, this is the way the world really exists. And maybe I individually could come up with a better solution. Maybe I could say something a little bit smarter to that client. Why am I always being dumbed down? Okay. Now, that brings me to the next point of the resistance. Okay. So now in this book, it's been personified. The resistance is the white elephant in the room. That's the white elephant. And it's everywhere. And it's scary. So Laura, my partner, and I were in the office the other day. She's been working with me for 13 years. And so we reference our work as a partnership. And we reference our own mindset evolutions and as it's affected by our family, our children, and then how those pressures bring to bear on our work. And what was scary to us for a moment was that we were beginning to be able to name the resistance. It wasn't just this thing that we complained about when it came and tripped us up. When the deal doesn't go so smoothly, when the co-broke is giving you a hard time, when the buyer's freaking out, walking away from the deal, post-home inspection with no issues, when the negotiation is rigorous and it breaks down and it continues over weeks. I mean, that's just the stuff of reality in real estate. It just happens. But all of that emotion and all that resistance, if we resist it, I know it's going to sound a little weird, that's us as the resistance. We're it. We're the problem. So you can have this external resistance that's preventing you from consummating the deal. But if that triggers emotions in you where you lose it and you lose your creativity, your imaginary way to, hey, I think if I think this way, maybe I could solve this problem. Maybe I'll suggest this as a solution. You see what I'm saying? You get emotional, you get upset, and you throw all your resourcefulness out the door. And resourcefulness is predicated on imagination. You have to think your way through these tough spots. So it's just crazy that the resistance is in not only the world we live in externally, but more important, internally. How do we get provoked? What happens to us? Do we lose our ability to problem solve? And by the way, folks, you want to become a great real estate agent? You need to become a tremendously good problem solver. You need to become a therapist. You need to become a great technician with a little bit of the math, digging in deeper, understanding it so you can empower people. You need to become a great negotiator who can put their own emotions aside. You need to know when to push, when to pull back. I know it. There's a lot going on here to become a great real estate agent. But there's a lot going on to become a great anything. I mean, I have 5 kids, and I see them all trying to become great at something. And the resistance is certainly real out there. If you want to ascend the ladder, as my daughter does as an actress, another one as a businesswoman in Manhattan, another one as an elite hockey player, another one as a superstar student, another one as a photography major. All those things are difficult. There's no doubt about it. But the minute that they lose control over their own emotions, you can see the road becomes more difficult. Okay, so you get the point. The resistance is everywhere. But I want to deal with the one that's inside your head. And I want to go to another spot where I do some listening and tell you about another guy by the name of David Goggins. And what I've learned from David Goggins about pushing yourself. Now, a lot of you might just say, oh, all these motivational people with their stories, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, okay, I get it. I get that could bore you, turn you off, or you're not one of those motivational people. I heard that before from a pro hockey player. Yeah, right. Okay, so everybody needs to motivate themselves. We just all do it in different ways. But what we all share in common is that we must understand the basic workings of the human mind to be able to fix this. Because I have a lot of people as a coach tell me, okay, great, I get it, I'm the problem, I'm the one that keeps tripping me up. What do I do? Just show me how to solve it. So in listening to Goggins, he has a very simple story. He was 300 pounds. He wanted to become a Navy SEAL. He got his way finally into the Air Force. He was afraid of the water. He leaned in on some story about sickle cell anemia, but the truth was he says he was afraid of the water. So he quits the military, opts out, goes and gets a job spraying for cockroaches, balloons up to 300 pounds, and one day all of a sudden there's cockroaches all over this restaurant. He makes a decision. He gets inspirationally dissatisfied. He puts down his canister and he walks home, and he decides that the resistance needs to be broken. See, some people might call it the comfort zone, and I know that's an ugly comfort to sit there. And again, nothing against anybody in the bug business. Thank God we have them in our business because they resolve a lot of problems for us. But for David, it wasn't his dream. His dream was to become this Navy SEAL. So he had to overcome this resistance. And what he decided to do was, as he says, try to break himself into a fine powder by becoming the opposite of a 300-pound guy. And that was an elite, fit athlete. So he decides the fastest path to do that is to start becoming an ultra runner. I'll stop at ultra marathon runner because the first thing he did was go out and try to run a quarter of a mile, comes back, falls down on the couch and starts crying because he couldn't do it. Goes out the next day, goes a little further. The next day, and you get the point. Next thing you know, this guy's running 100 miles. 100 miles. Then 200 miles. And he becomes this unbelievably elite athlete, goes on to achieve his dream, goes through 3 hell weeks. Okay, 3 hell weeks, which is the most difficult hoop to jump through to become that Navy SEAL. The image of people that quit have to go up and ring a bell. So he gets through 3 of those, becomes a Navy SEAL, and also becomes a Navy SEAL recruiter, but now he has this message to share with us. Now, I don't know how many of you are going to be able to relate what I'm saying to your real estate agent business, but hopefully enough of you get this. You must recognize what he says is the key that he recognized. He calls it this 40% threshold, that the animal part of our brain is designed to simply survive. Think about the king of the jungle, the lion. So the lion gets hungry and goes out and is ferocious in its pursuit of its next meal. Everybody in the jungle is afraid of the lion. And so, but think about the next image of a lion. Have you ever been to a zoo and gone to the lion's cage, which I hate, by the way, but gone there and seen what happens there? Most of the time, the lion is out cold, sleeping. Same thing in the wild. When you see a lot of these animal shows, I mean, they'll try to get the lion in full flight, but they have to wait till the nighttime or the small window of time when the lion wants to feed itself, because the rest of the time, its animal brain shuts it down. It doesn't shut it down. It closes it down. Think about that lion is out cold, snoring away, and nothing's going to wake it up until its belly needs to get filled up again to survive. So I don't know whether it's just the fortune of the lion that they're built to be these powerful cats and that they're just God's choice to become the top of the food chain per se, but they are. But they only do enough to survive. And then they go to sleep. Think about that. Let that set in for a second. Is that what you're doing in your business? Are you doing just enough deals to make this a viable thing that you hang around with? Now, I've challenged myself, my own team, but especially my coaching members. I've said, look, I can't sit here as a guide, knowing what I know, sharing what I'm sharing with the public on this podcast, and watch you just be stuck there without giving you the tools and the way out of the hole. See, this industry, I don't know, we even now have statistics that are called typical. The typical agent does X number of deals. Come on. I'm like, when is typical a statistic? It's how many do? We do 2 to 3 a year, on average, over 1.3 million licensees in the United States alone who call themselves a realtor by joining the National Association of Realtors. And it perpetuates itself year after year after year. So what's wrong? 2 to 3 is just enough to have part-time income out of this industry. Well, you do something else to put food on the table. So it's not that we're not good at the 2 to 3. I don't know that's the issue. Maybe the public perceives it, and you certainly don't get great doing only 2 to 3 deals a year, but there's a lot of people that do those 2, 3 extremely well. Bravo, I applaud you. You follow a systematic, professional approach, wonderful. But my real point here is that's just enough. It's just barely enough. Whether it's your part-time income, supplemental income in a family situation, it's just barely enough. It is thermostatic. You are stuck there. So you have to do something to push yourself. Now, if you're listening to this podcast right now, this is one of those things. And I am just in the throes of about to hire a note taker to listen to these episodes, pull out some notes in a worksheet that you'll be able to download, set up a membership where you can get that delivered to you monthly. I'm trying all the time myself to push the message to you, but you've got to push yourself. And I will share with you that outside of this, I push myself. I was a runner as a kid, but I can't keep talking about way back when I used to do that. And of course, I still do work out. But you know what I say to myself? Stay within the striking zone is something that I say to myself, and I've said it for the last 4 or 5 years physically. Stay within the striking zone, which means what? That you could get in really good shape if you just kind of stay in good shape. See what the mind does? It's insane that it can do that. So what do you think it's doing in your business? It's saying, oh, just keep it close. Yeah, that's good. Let's just get a little bit more. Just get one more lead. Just put that one under agreement. Oh, you don't need to go make all those telephone calls tonight. You don't have to do all those open houses this weekend. You got enough. You got 3 or 4 people. Then we wake up, 2 or 3 of them blew up. They weren't what we thought we were. We're starting from scratch and we're panicking all again. You getting this message here? There's something sinister at play. The resistance is in between our ears. And it's called our animal brain. And it's set to just survive. Now, I'm not telling you to go out and become an ultra marathoner, but I am telling you to go change yourself physically. Go do something physically that's better for you. Go push yourself beyond, because this will take energy. When I endeavored to start my own coaching company 7 years ago, I knew it would take all of me. And I still had 5 young kids. 2 of them are now college graduates, but think about that. They were all in high school or younger. I knew this would take all of me to do my own book of business, grow my brokerage, train people, so I really paid attention to my health. I'm very rarely sick. I pay attention to pushing myself physically into the right places, eating organically wherever possible, right? Drinking enough water, doing enough exercise. And it's the only thing that sustains me. So when people look at me and they say, how in the world do you do it all? Because I took this kind of messaging seriously. And it turns out it's a nice lifestyle. You don't get sick that often. You're not overly tired. You get way beyond. Goggins calls it this dark chamber. Not in a bad way. It's this place where there's very few people. To become uncommon amongst uncommon people is his endeavor. I'll just take it if you try to be uncommon against a former version of yourself. That you don't recognize that person who didn't push beyond, who didn't stretch, who didn't keep growing. So let me summarize these key points for you. The subject here today, on the back of something very practical. Last episode, go back and listen to it. Eat That Frog, a Brian Tracy concept of doing the tasks that you keep ignoring. The telemarketing hours, the open house hours. Those are the things I'm pounding away at my own agents and my coaching members. You got to do these basic things. Don't let people tell you they're not important, they don't work. Come on. This business works very particularly with 20% Pareto principle stuff. The 20% activities yield 80% of the result. I just closed a double-ended deal from somebody I met in open house 8 weeks ago, okay? So don't tell me it doesn't work. I sit here and do it. Telemarketing every day. I have a team member, Autumn, who sits on that phone every day and pounds away. Laura, who pounds away on the phone. Telemarketing. So come on. There are the 20% things that must be done. You know what they are. Then you come into this one and say, well, why am I not doing them? That's how these two episodes are related. Well, because you need to, number one, listen to The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. Listen to it, read it, and understand that you can personify this resistance so that you can see it. So it's not this impervious, mysterious, ghost-like thing. It's real, and it's the enemy. And you call it the resistance. That's the second point. There it is. And you'll begin to not just recognize it as one elephant, but it's everywhere. And not only is it external, it's internal. And remember, listen to some Goggins about pushing yourself. It's inspirational what this guy did. You don't have to become the next Navy SEAL, but you need to push yourself beyond where you're at physically. You are way more capable of way more than you think. I know your leg hurts, or you have this disease, or you're sick with this. Your parents weren't privileged. Blah, 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 blah. I get it. Keep pushing. There's more for you. It's waiting for you, but it's a decision away. And ultimately, the scariest part of this all, it's your brain. That's why all this stuff happens. It's your brain. Your brain is meant to protect you. It's meant to get enough food like the lion and go to sleep. And that's what it's doing in your business. And that's just scary as heck, okay? So let me summarize the key point here. The big white elephant in the room is resistance. And it will always win the battle unless you find ways to constantly challenge your animal brain, which is thermostatically set to shut down at just enough. All right. Remember, you can take immediate action and get started in the right direction with our free simple business plan over at freeagentgift.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast so that you don't miss out on any of these insights each time we upload an episode. We also broadcast our live sales training calls on Facebook and YouTube every Friday at 1 EDT. Eastern Daylight Time. So remember to turn on your page and channel notifications, a little bell there, or the like button on the page for the Realty Classroom, and you won't miss those reminders. We'd also appreciate it if you'd share our content. We'd like that a lot with other entrepreneurial real estate agents just like you so that they get the help that they need. Okay. And I'm also working again, like I said, on downloadable show notes. Hopefully you'll download those, you'll get together and you'll mastermind about those notes. You'll challenge each other and you go out and try these things for yourselves. Now, remember, my final thought here is it usually is the same. Nobody is coming for you. So go get to work on your own business. And in this episode, on your own mindset. All right. We'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for being here.